Hey everyone, how are you guys doing? Hey. I see Mook Dog, he's been in there. Matrix Bass was the first one to jump in the chat today, so thanks for joining. Tech Reviews fans, Fran, excuse me, and Tim Windsor. Tim and Bass were the two first ones to jump in here. So let me I'll give everybody a few minutes to jump on the show. We are up to 12, so we'll give it a few minutes. Hopefully everybody's doing okay in amongst your social isolation and your social distancing. Hopefully everybody is safe and we just stay calm. We'll get through all of this stuff. Don't worry. Things will happen. Things will work themselves out. So stay calm. And what's funny is, again, while we're waiting a few minutes for people to jump into the show, I work at a grocery store. I'm a butcher. That's my line of work. And so that is the grocery stores are open. Grocery stores and gas stations are they're not going to close down either. The hospitals. But we're doing our best to keep things out, right? We're just, wait a minute. I hear me? Do you guys hear me?
Yep.
LG, you might want to check because everybody can hear. I can hear everybody in here. And one of the jokes we made at work is that now I know how the band on the Titanic felt, because we're trying our hardest to fill up the shelves and do all the stuff that needs to happen to get product out as it comes in. We're getting it out and trying to just play along and trying to keep everybody calm. And I'm thinking to myself, this is how the band on the Titanic felt as they played as the ship went down. So it'll all get better. So you just stay calm. Don't hoard, please. That's probably the biggest problem that we're having, that I see on the grocery side of it, is we just have everybody coming in and thinking they need to have a month's supply. If you're grabbing a month's supply, that puts other people behind. So get what you need, but just think about your fellow man. And that's where I think a lot of this problem is not everybody's thinking of somebody else. They're thinking about me and they're grabbing a bunch. So we got that going. Let's see what I'll give it about 1-2 more minutes, and then I will start talking about the Raspberry Pi, because our subject matter today is Raspberry Pi, RetroPi, images, retro gaming. What is it? How does it work? Is it for you? Is this something that you would like to do, something that would interest you? I've been doing it a while. I find it extremely fun. It brings back my childhood. So I think it's all good. LG, glad the things are sorted out on your mic. Marvin, thanks for joining here. Brooklyn Cord Cutters, thanks for joining. Clutch71, thanks for joining the show. Skulls Playlist, again, another one that's always watching. Thanks for watching. Silverback, thanks for watching. You're always here. Weezer, what's it? Weezer Boy or Wiser Boy? It'd be Wiser Boy. Wiser Boy 1. Shark 55, thanks for joining. Eddie, thanks for jumping in here. Can UK Gal, Ed D, Matrix, thanks you guys for joining. So let's see. Let's go ahead and start the show. We're up to 26 watchers. They can go back and watch it to find out what it is. So I wrote down a few notes, so I will rely on those notes, and then I'll introduce our guest to really get to the meat of this. I have a basic knowledge of all this stuff, but not extensive as much as VirtualMan would have. So Raspberry Pi, what is a Raspberry Pi? Raspberry Pi is basically a mini computer. They've been around since 2012. They came out in 2012. And from what I read on Wikipedia, it came out of the UK. A UK company created it. Basically, again, it's just a mini computer. This is a Raspberry Pi 1, if I'm not mistaken. I think I've had this a long time. It has your USB ports on it. You can see an Ethernet port over here. It has your SD slot. Now, you can tell this is an older one because it actually has an SD card. All of the later Pis used a micro card. And you also have little pins. So if you wanted to do some programming, this actually can do all kinds of programming. Just to give you some numbers so you have an idea of how popular Raspberry Pis are, some of the numbers. So it came out in 2012. By 2015, 5 million of them had been sold. By 2016, 11 million had been sold. December of 2019, 30 million of them had been released. You had the Raspberry Pi, which came out in 2012. The Raspberry Pi 2 came out in 2015. Raspberry Pi 3 was 2016, and the latest version, which is Raspberry Pi 4, came out in 2019. Now, there are some versions. There's like different versions of like Raspberry Pi 2. There was like 3 versions, I believe. Raspberry Pi 3 had 3 versions, if I'm not mistaken, and they had little specs. They were different in specs, like maybe RAM was different, or different things were different, so they kind of upgraded them. But it's a mini computer, so you could use it for, I know that some of the guys talked about it on our streaming stuff. You could actually make a VPN. You can run Pi-hole, if I'm not mistaken, on this and create your own VPN inside your home and hook it to your network. Let's see, VPN, Wi-Fi extenders, web server. You can hook this up to a hard drive, make it a web server. Some of the other uses were for a kid's first PC. You could use it for that. Home theater systems, and then playing retro games. So lots of different things that this can be used for. And this was the first one. Like I said, a first one that was like the Pi 1. This happens to be a case for my Pi 3B. And this is the second case. Now, you can get different cases for them. It's what your taste is. I'm a Sega Genesis fan. I just love the Sega Genesis. So when I saw this case, I had to have it. Plus, you can open this, and I have a place to put all my micro SD cards. They go right in there. And this has 4 USB ports. It has the HDMI port. It has a power port. I think this is an audio port. And then right in here is my Ethernet ports and 2 more USBs. And then over here is where my micro USB card is. So somewhat, this looks very similar to this, is inside here. Again, this is a 3B Plus. This was a Pi 1, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a Pi 2. But this is the 3B Plus, which is the one that came out a couple years ago. Very good device. VirtualMan will be able to talk more about what's better for different things. But the price on these, I think I bought my Raspberry Pi, not the case, but the Raspberry Pi, the power source. It came with a case. It came with just a basic case. The heat sink, the fan, I think it ran me about $50 or $60. So $50 to $60, I had this device, not counting this case. This case itself cost me like 30, something like that, because I had to have this case.
Because right now the Raspberry Pi 4 is $35, but that's just the
board.
Yeah,
just the board. I'll if you guys look in the show notes, I have a thing, and I'll post it over here in a second, where you can look at VirtualMan's suggested, like a suggested list, which has the 4 and is the Pi 4. It has the other things you need, an SD card, stuff like that, and it kind of has an idea of what you want to go with. So great device to have to play all kinds of stuff, as well as other things if you want to have a mini computer. So I've been long-winded enough. I've talked for 5 minutes, so I'm going to give VirtualMan a chance, and I will say, first and foremost, I've been using a RetroPi for on and off year and a half, maybe, when I bought my 3. And VirtualMan was, I think, the first image that I bought, or not bought, I downloaded the first image to put on my Raspberry Pi. And an image is basically a build. For our Kodi folks, if you know what a build is, this is what an image is. It's a preset configuration, ROMs, all the whole 9 yards, plug and play. So that's the image, and VirtualMan is one of the developers of those kind of images, and I would say the top guy making images right now. There's other people doing it, but no one's doing it as good as what he is, and his detail, very detail oriented. So, Virtual Man, I've talked long enough. Thanks for joining the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and this is my first appearance as a guest on a live stream, so I'm excited.
Yeah, well, he's gonna pop his cherry right here on the show. We've popped cherries. People a lot of times get nervous. It's not a big deal. You've done YouTube videos, so I've seen you doing videos or having just live things going on. So that's happened before. So thanks for joining. I was super, super honored that you were willing to jump on here and talk about what a Raspberry Pi is.
I'll tell you right now, he was giddy like a schoolgirl.
Well, it's just because open source community is so cool to me about people that give their time, their effort, their hours and hours and hours of their time for just to give away. And that was what got me into Kodi, was the willingness to do the work and just say, here you go, community. You do whatever. You can have it. Do what you want with it. And that's the coolest thing. So so thanks for joining the show. Give us a little background of who you are and all that kind of stuff.
So I'm known as Virtual Man. That's my alias. I'm from Canada on the East Coast. And I've been, I'm born in the 70s, grew up with arcades. That was my thing. I was that kid with fistful of quarters, spend my allowance, on weekends. And that's basically, that was me. And then over time, I grew up, went through all my phases. Then I'd say probably 10 years ago, when I discovered emulation for the first time, where you could actually emulate arcades like Manny, and other emulators, the NES, and when I came across where that you could actually simulate those on PCs and then other hardware, that was kind of like the game changer for me. So I was addicted since then. So I started doing soft mods, on old school Xbox, the very first Xbox, PSP portables. I just started playing around with it and just started putting emulation software on it and on PCs as well. And then that's kind of, it exploded from there. But the passion behind the tweaking and because it's open source, because I'm an IT guy as a profession, but I love open source. I'm really good with the Linux and love tweaking. And I just got really, really hooked on that aspect. Love the nostalgia of the games itself, but I'm really addicted to making things work, making things better, and I'm constantly evolving. So I decided 2 years ago, I discovered Raspberry Pi for the first time. Somebody introduced me to Raspberry Pi 3, I believe it was. And when I saw this little tiny thing, the size of my palm, my hand, the size of a credit card, I was like, intriguing. Single board computer. Okay, what's all this about? And then it was small but mighty. And then once I discovered what was running on it, Raspbian, so it's Linux, and then all the later applications and front ends. So I discovered RetroPi and then Recalbox and other front ends. But I got hooked with the RetroPi because the dev community was just so massive behind it. So I really just started supporting them and then just started tweaking from there. So that's in a nutshell. That's me. But I've been doing builds, I'd say, probably 2 years now for the RetroPi.
Okay. So, all right. So I basically said it's a build, and for the guys that are the guys and gals that watch my show, and we're into streaming, we're into Kodi. We understand what a build is, a Kodi build, which is a preset configuration.
Yep.
So what would you now? Yours is not called a build; it's an image, which is an ISO, and you take the ISO, you get the ISO, and you put it on a micro SD card with any of the stuff, and that ISO is put on the device, and because the device has no hard drive, that is the hard drive. That's the operating system. So, So an image, what would you describe that? And
so
what goes into
just think of an image as stacks. You get stacks. So the first stack is your operating system. That would be your Raspbian OS. So that's the foundation of it. So the image that I'm using as a stack, as a base, is basically Playbox. It's by my friend 2Play. He's also my mentor. So he's created the base that's basically a Raspbian base. So that's the first foundation. That's your operating system. On top of that, then you have RetroPi. RetroPi just sits on top of it with layers of applications such as RetroArch. As everyone knows, that's your emulators for every core system, Nintendo, Genesis, so on and so on. And then you get your front end emulation station. So what RetroPi does, it bundles all those applications together, and it makes it seamless for you to plug any controllers, like a plug and play experience, things like that. So that's basically the foundation of it. But the bill aspect, it's what you're putting into it, like background music, because it's open-ended. You can really customize this to your need. You can have specific intro. When you boot up your Pi, you can have a nice video intro. I get 16 of them. They're all mine. So that just gives you flexibility to create your own intros when it boots up. And then other aspect of customization could be the background music. You may want your own background music. I have a slew, like I have 85 tracks right now, but they're very specific, and then people fell in love with it for some reason. So it's like a very ambient, retro wave kind of background that just fits really well with the retro nostalgia. And then you have your the content itself. So you have all these applications, you have all these emulators, but you got to make it all work. Then you get your content, your games, your systems, your emulators. So you got to start pumping the emulators in there, and then just start tweaking away from there. But it takes time. So like I said, I've been at it for 2 years. I had at least, I'd say probably 10 bills since then, and it has evolved and evolved and evolved. So that's really a hindsight, but that's what it is. It's the content, customizing the content, customizing the background, customizing the themes too. You have themes, things like that. Yeah. Did I lose you?
No, I put myself on mute because someone said there was a clicking. I wasn't sure if it was my microphone. So I muted myself just for a minute.
Okay.
So I'm trying to see how I can add everybody. Okay, so that's that one. So I'm going, let's see, let me add.
That's yours. There's mine. Yeah.
Yep, yours is there. This is the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus.
Yep.
One of the guys in the chat at who was it? Grim asked if you had a image for the 3B Plus, and you do.
Yeah.
I think you have a few of them. This is the 256 gig one,
Yep.
which I will show in just shortly. I'll kind of go through this. He's also going to go through the Raspberry Pi 4, which he just released an image.
March 14th.
Yep, for the Raspberry Pi 4, which is the newest board. It has a 1 gig, 2 gig, and 4 gig versions. So you can have 1, 2, or 3 gigs, or 1, 2, or 4 gig versions of the board itself. And you said, now you have the 2 gig version?
The 4 gig.
You have the 4 gig.
Yeah.
But I think we were talking, and you said for most emulation, 2 gigs would do you all right, because most emulators are maxing out.
Is very optimized. It's only using, for my Pi 4 image, it's really just over 1.2 gigabytes on average usage. So it's still good.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. If I can figure out how to configure this chat thing over here. But yeah, you're able to do it. One of the things you said on it was the front end and back end. And so I'm going to try to explain that to some of the people that may not know about emulation and stuff like that. So some of us that are Android users, we may have heard of emulation. And yes, you can use emulators. RetroArch works. It works with Android, and you can. That's your engine, your background. That is, like you said, that is your emulators. That's it's how your engine runs. But then the front end would be how it looks. And off the top of my head, I think of something like Happy Chick or RetroX, or there's a couple others that are front end loaders, which gives you the eye candy, the ease of use of using the games. You have the art, all that kind of stuff is all nice and easy to find. But they're all linked into RetroArch to actually emulate it, because RetroArch is open source, but it's the cutting edge of the emulators. They're the ones that are making the emulators work, and they're the ones that make it as good as it is. The front end is only as good as RetroArch or the back end is, if hopefully people understand. So that's why he's saying emulation station on a Raspberry Pi is your front end. That's your eye candy. That's all of the stuff. Let me move. Let me move.
You can showcase that if you want.
Yeah, like this. Like on my, this is the front end. So this is what you see on the front end. That's your different systems, and you have lots of skins that you can put on this. It's not. So there are lots of skins, but then they're linked into the RetroArch. And like, let me just pull up one game now. He's got. I was get to something like a.
Well, I should mention here, if you don't mind.
Yep.
So these themes, emulation themes. They're created by Hursty. Hursty has a slew of them, and he's got the most popular ones. But you can install any themes you want. But what you're looking at is a Hursty-based theme, and you can look him up on YouTube. You'll find his theme. But he's the guy behind the actual theme for Emulation Station. For all of these, actually.
And I mean, you do a great job. One of the things with your images, if people can see with just, this is my 256 image for the Raspberry Pi 3. It has the art, or it has the snapshot, which is that video, the video gameplay, which is so cool to see that video gameplay. If you guys remember walking up to a machine, again, you were talking about being that arcade rat. I was that guy. I was the one with the quarters. I spent all my money at the arcade, or I spent it at the convenience store. Before I got home, I spent whatever I didn't spend on lunch, because I would cut back on my lunch so I could spend quarters. And this is what you would walk up to the machine and you would see that that gameplay, and you add that for all of your games that I've seen.
So everything is this is the term that we use called scrape. So every ROMs or every games is basically scraped for images, the mixed artwork that you're looking, the video snap to the description of the game. So that's all metadata that's being pulled, and I'm using different tools to do that. Built-in the front end does have a built-in scraper. So let's say you're missing artwork, you can actually scrape it built-in, but it's limited. So I tend to do all my scraping from my PC, and I use scraper.net.
Yeah, and see, one of the cool things that I didn't know for a long time, that if you hit the select button, you could actually go to the letter of the game, because there's so many. There's so many to go for. In
a little bit of a learning curve, but not too much. You know? It's intuitive and easy.
Yeah, it's not impossible. So,
Todd?
Yes, ma'am.
One of the questions that getting asked is where do people find the images?
Okay. All right, you want to go ahead, Virtual Man? You can explain that, because
yeah, but I think in the show notes we'll have a link to what's called a Tapatalk, and Tapatalk is our forum, and that's the starting point. That's all I'm going to say, because legally I can't really tell you where to get these.
Perfect.
But just start there, and you'll have to register. It's not public, so just register. It has to be approved, and then we'll let you in. And then you'll get all the information and intel you're going to need. Trust me.
Yep. And again, he's doing this for free. But he's trying to be smart. And most of us that are in the Cody scene / APK / streaming community, we understand the point of you need to kind of be safe about what you're doing, and he's creating this. So yes, you got to join the Tapatalk. It is already in the show notes. I posted that when I created the show. So if you look below the screen here on Streaming Matters, you'll see where it says show more. You will see the link to his Tapatalk room, and you go there and do some reading. And I will say this, I actually got schooled a little bit today because, you know, I know everything. So I'm just, I'm a man. I don't always read instructions. So I was going through my image, my 256. I started updating things because I'm like, oh, I need to update Raspberry Pi. And, oh, I need to update this. I need to update that. And I broke it. And so I spoke to VirtualMan. I said, hey, this isn't working. And he says, what did you do? And I said, I was updating this and that. He says, well, did you read on the forums on Tapatalk? And I said, no. He goes, obviously you didn't because you broke it. And he goes, I write all this out so that you'll understand what you need to do to make it work.
It's been around for 2 years now. The reason why I created this Tapatalk forum, me and Retro Junkie, actually a good friend, he basically created it and then said, hey, we should just stick to this forum base so we can keep our how-tos, our how-to tips, knowledge base, just share the knowledge, right? And we don't want to keep secrets. We want to share this knowledge. It is open source after all. Mm-hmm. So we want to make it inviting, but there's still a learning curve. People come in and, you know, they want everything on a silver platter. We kind of have to lower their expectations a bit and just, hey, we guide people, right? That's what we do. We guide them to the right direction, and then we help them out. And, you know, I got this type of controller. Okay, so then we figured that out. And it's like a good community. I call them retro patriots. They're all good retro patriots. They all love the whole scene of just kind of being a retro patriot to help others and, you know, enjoying the game, the old school games, and making things work.
One of the questions I saw over here was how many ROMs are in a build? Now, I want to say my 256, I think it had 10,000.
Yeah, in my Pi4, my latest, this is a 512 gig, keep in mind. So that's about 12,600 plus.
And
a lot of these are CD-based games. Those take a lot of space. So they're all quality gems. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like my image, which is a 256, is going to be a smaller image, but I won't have as many of those 2 or 3 gig or more games. They're going to be the smaller. Even though 10,000 games is a lot.
It's in your lifetime. I don't think you'll be able to play them all.
No, too many for me. It's like going to Netflix and trying to pick out a movie.
Yeah, like you spend more time just looking than you do watching a movie. Yeah. So hey, go ahead. Let's take a look at your 512 image that you got for the Raspberry Pi 4. Go ahead and show that. One of the things you customize the games for your Raspberry Pi. Oh, there's your controller, which is
will work with anything pretty much. Xbox to PlayStation, they're all going to work. Anything Bluetooth based will work, but I suggest always check the RetroPi website. They do have a compatibility list, but by far, I've been in this for 2 years now, the RetroPi scene, and I've been using 8-bit Do SN30 Pro, and this will play every system, not just the Nintendo, but PlayStation to whatever, Dreamcast. And it's got the dual analog, and you can use this across all systems, not just the RetroPi. Or Raspberry Pi. You can also use this on your PC, Mac. You can also use this on your modern consoles, Xbox, and your PlayStation 4, whatever. So this is the one I recommend everybody. But if you're using my image, everything will work with this, guaranteed.
Yeah, that is and for someone like me, that is if you read any forums, they will say the 8-bit Do is the controller you need to have. And it's over and over. They'll say that. I have a Walmart knockoff one, and I think I messaged you about a year ago because I was having issues. And you said, what controller you have? And I told you. And you said, is that on the Raspberry Pi forums as compatible? And I look and I'm like, no. And he goes, well, I don't know. You said, I don't know what I can tell you about that. It's like, but
yeah, it's always good to read the documentation.
It works. It does work.
It works. It's a hit and miss, right? So you try it, you experiment, then you let people know, hey, I'm using this type of controller, and we'll put that in the forum.
Yeah,
it does. People will come in, will say, hey, I have an X Arcade dual joystick. Oh, so I actually had one of those, luckily. But they actually have drivers for the the Raspberry Pi, the RetroPi. They actually have drivers for it, so it works. So anybody with Zyn arcade controllers or anything like that that are building arcade cabinets, it all works with it.
Yeah. One of the nice things that with my controller, the reason why I went with it is a wired controller, but it has like a 10-foot cord. So at 10-foot cord, I can sit on the other side of my room and I don't have to move the Raspberry Pi, and I don't have to worry about, it doesn't have to be Bluetooth because the Bluetooth cost went up. So that was the plus. And I guess I can post on the forums that it does work for the most part. It does well, and it's cheap at Walmart. I think I paid $19 or $15 for it.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, no problem. I'm just changing the theme here, so I'm just showing you guys. So I go and reboot it, but I won't. But every time you boot up the Raspberry Pi, it doesn't matter if you have the Pi 3 image or the Pi 4, you'll get a random intro movie. But if you go to my YouTube, I have plenty of my intro movies, intro boot up screens, so you get an idea what they are. But as soon as you boot up, you're going to get a random emulation station theme. And this is one of them that you're seeing here. So this is called The Cosmic Rise by Hursty. Very nice theme. So randomly you'll get a different one. So it's never boring, stuck on the same one. But you can disable those randomizers if you want. It's all there in my Tapatalk on how to do that. But I'll just give you guys a quick tour of emulation station, real quick. That sound good?
Yep.
Okay. So let's just start with emulation station. Very easy, very intuitive. Press the start, and there's your options, right? You get your sound settings, you can bump up your volume, things like that. You get your UI settings. So you get different themes, right? There's your theme set. So this is the one I'm using now, Cosmic Rise. So every time you boot up, you're going to hit one of these themes. They're all pre-installed. I have about 30 of them in this particular build, all pre-installed for you. You can get your own. You can download more, and I'll show you that later. But this is emulation station in a nutshell, very high level. And then you get game collection. So I do have 16 custom collections enabled in this. So these are just specific custom collections, so like beat 'em ups, things like that, Castlevania only. So they're all kind of done for you, but you can definitely turn them off and on. And
the game won't show unless you have the ROM for it, even if, like, say you turned on Castlevania, but you only had one version, Castlevania ROM. It's only going to show you that one.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And then other settings, these are just like stuff you don't want to be in.
Yeah. Ignore all this part. Do not mess with that.
But configure input is an important one. So when you first boot up, it will detect the controller. But if you have a Bluetooth, well, you have to connect a keyboard first. And you'll have to use the keyboard initially to get to your Bluetooth. But all that information is documented and it's very easy to use. So I just make my way to Bluetooth and the way I go. All right. So that's emulation station. Now this is emulation station as the front end you're looking at. And you have your, I'm just going to go through all the systems real quick. But so in this particular build, all games, 12,612 games in this case. You get your favorites. So these are my specific favorites. So if you want a good start, you don't know what to play, start here. There are really some nice treasures here. And everything has video snaps. I have not missed one yet. So you have 12,600 plus video snaps. Everything is there. That took me forever, by the way. But it's worth it. It's fun. So your last play is convenient. So you play the game, you did a random shuffle, and you don't remember the game. Well, you just go back, and it will show you all the games you last played, which is nice. And then you get Kodi. It's all pre-installed for you, so I won't get into that. But it's the version 18, I think, the latest. And you can add any kind of plugins as you want. Options. So this is kind of unique. So this is where I apologize. My TV is not the best. It's my cheap lab TV. You won't see the entire screen, but that's my cheap lab TV that I have. But these the options here is where you want to start kind of doing certain tweaks. So you have emulation tools, you have configuration editor. So it gives you a little description of what they are. So I won't go too deep in it, but it's just enough for you to understand what they are. So there's the Zenmo the joystick driver I was telling you about. So if you have a joystick, you just enable that and it will work. Things like that. And then your network tools, configure your Bluetooth. That's where you go in. You configure your Bluetooth, and then you can connect any of these controllers Bluetooth. So you pair it, essentially. Then your Wi-Fi, all that stuff. And then you get into your system tools. So these are your basic system tools, your audio, file manager, run command settings, overclock. This is kind of a nice feature. I am using stock clock, which is 1.5 gigahertz on the Pi4. But you can go in here and you can actually mess with this and really tweak the, you can overclock at your own risk, obviously. Go to 1.75, 2 gigahertz, 2.1, but you're definitely going to need a fan, good heat sink, things like that. But I'm going to be honest with you, you won't need it unless you really have specific needs and requirements. But all these games have been tested with stock clock and they run just fine. All right, so that's it in a nutshell.
Hey, one of the things on this screen, so you have music that plays as soon as you boot up your disk. There's music, and I'm not a fan of having the music play, so you can turn that off right there.
Yeah.
So if you're a person that doesn't want music playing before it's like in between here, you can turn it off. You also can put your own music on here. Yeah. You can put your own whatever you want. On one of my images, I had a whole bunch of like 80s heavy metal, and I put all of that on there, and it would play random songs, Van Halen or Metallica or whatever. So, you can do the thing in there. The visual and themes is where you can also download new themes because you have certain numbers, but there is plenty more if those don't work. If the person doesn't like it, you can get more. One caveat to that, if you download more themes, sometimes they don't have the art for certain things. Like, let's say that beat 'em ups. Beat 'em ups may not have the art for some themes where the themes that you have pre-chosen have all the art.
That's right. Yeah, that's correct. So all the themes that are built in right now, they all support all the systems that you're seeing. So what's going to happen, let's say you download a theme and it doesn't see Amiga. You're just going to get text. So it just tells you that it's not supported.
Yeah, it'll say 646 games, but it's not going to, it'll be a black screen, a black little bar there.
Yeah, but the 30 themes I have here, they all work for every system and they support all the collections I have.
So go ahead, you can go through the games.
Very high level. I forgot to mention, I almost forgot.
Oh,
this is something new in my build. You're only going to find this with this specific build. Something that's been asked, because every time I release a build, people come up to me, hey, I found this problem, and okay, I'll put a fix, and then I do it up, I type it up in my form, follow these procedures, they're all command line, and nobody likes that. I'm not going to follow that command line stuff. No way. So what I've decided to do is create this VMan build post-fix enhancement. So it's basically does all the work for you, does all the dirty work. So I got about 5, I'd say, post-fixes so far, or enhancements. And all they have to do is run this. They just click on that, get a little menu. I'll just show you real quick, but I won't actually do it, but I already did it. But this is one of the killer nice features. And it will just, and I like to keep things very simple. I have the KISS rule. KISS stands for keep it simple, stupid. Okay? So you just apply updates and you're done, and you reboot emulation station and you're good to go. Now how you reboot, you just press start, quit, restart emulation station, and you're done.
Yeah, and that's because in the past you would have, someone would have to, like you said, they'd have to manually go in to the DOS, that little DOS screen, and type in the fix or do whatever it was. Now what your fix does, they don't download that whole 512 gigs again. No. It's just what needs to be fixed. So if you guys have had builds, think about this. Let's say normally if you put out a build fix, your users have to download the whole build again. This only downloads the parts that were changed, so it's a very small little fix, and that's the real benefit to a 512 gig.
Yeah, it's enhancements too. So sometimes I'll find a tweak for a specific game that looks way better, and all it is just a flat configuration file that has enhancement, take advantage of the resolution, things like that, right? So it's not just fixes; it's enhancements to whatever. So that's a big plus. So people are loving this right now. So it's a nice plus.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to carry on real quick. So these are I'll go across all the system. I've done this many times in my YouTube, but just to give you an idea, I'm not going to go deep into it, but just enough. So ports, those are your PC kind of base games. So your Dooms, your Quakes, and these run really great, and they're enhanced. And so these are a lot of fun. So these are ports from PC. They're ported over, and they work great. And then you get your Amiga systems, again with all the artwork ever. These are the top Amigas. Amigas has a lot, but these are the top ones. Amiga CD. This is a system I'm not familiar, but I know in Europe it's fairly popular. It's Amstrad, I believe it's called. CPC computer. Arcade Classics. This is very popular. So 1,730 games, and these have the Bezel project enabled. Each one of them.
All right, in the Bezel project, again, not to interrupt you, but the Bezel project, for people that don't understand, if you guys remember, the arcade games were long. It was a narrow, the screens were kind of narrow, and it was long. Well, now our TVs are wider than they're tall. So in this, we'll have the bezels, which would have been on the arcade. It was that glass pieces on each, or well, maybe not glass. Some of them were like laminate. That was
showcase one.
Huh? Yeah. Go ahead and crank one.
So here's Bad Dudes, right?
Bad Dudes.
Bad Dudes. Load this up. All right. So this is a launch screen that you see there. That's me potentially in the background. So and then it loads the bezel. So that's the bezel, basically what you're seeing there. Because these were a 4:3 ratio, right? The arcade.
Yep.
So instead of having the black screen just empty, you just fill it with a nice bezel. And looks really. So that's what bezel project is all about. They're also known as overlays. They call them overlays.
Yeah, and I mean, it looks just like when you were at the arcade. They had the bezels on the sides, up on most of the systems. Sometimes they would tell you what the buttons were or what they did, like Mortal Kombat, do this for the special.
Turn my light off and see if it's a little better. It's a little better there?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay. So, so you can see it works fun. There you go. So I'm going to escape. I'm going to press start and select now. Take me back. That simple. All right, arcade. Then you get your Ataris. You get all three major systems, 2600, 5200, 7800, and the Atari Portable, which I never knew existed. The Thomas Wave, those are Japanese.
I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, Japanese arcade system, and they run actually really well, except a few of them, but these are my release notes. But still working on it, but for the most part, these all work great. Dolphin Blue.
Guilty Gear 5 or Guilty Gear 10? Huh.
Yeah.
King of Fighters.
Cool stuff, but
those are like Neo Geos. Wasn't King of Fighters a Neo Geo game?
Yeah, and then you have the Neo Geo system as well.
Yeah.
So Commodore 64. I was just exposed to these systems, but I got the top 64 games were there. And for the most part, you're going to need keyboard for these games, but some of them will work with the controller. ColecoVision, Daphne. You guys know what Daphne is?
Oh, I love that one. That was my baby. I never spent no money on that because it costs you $1 to play it and 50 cents to continue. That's a lot of money back when I was a kid. You'd have $5 in your pocket. It was like, no. I watch people play it.
Yeah, but I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I'm just going to pump up the volume a bit. But yeah, it plays really well. So it's really unique. But again, it was a quarter sucker, big time. It was fun. Then you get the Dreamcast. So this is where it differs from Pi 3 to Pi 4. This is where you're going to see the big gain in performance. The Raspberry Pi 4 actually uses a different emulator called Redream and LR Flycast. And those are highly optimized in the Pi 4, and they run at 60 frames per second. I'm not joking. And as long as you're using a 1080p signal, it runs at 60 frames per second. So these are some of the games.
All right, what was this? Wasn't the star, those stars at the top? Was that modifications? What was it?
Yeah, so those specific star ones, those are, in my release notes, they're homebrews or hacks. Yeah, these were homebrews and hacks that existed for those specific systems. Yeah, but just name a Dreamcast game. It's probably better.
Hey, Aldrin says to try to open. Can you open up Trucker Game on the Dreamcast?
Which one? 18-wheeler?
I guess it said that Trucker
Oh,
Game.
Thunder?
No, he said truck. So I think it'd be the 18-wheeler.
Is he that one?
Yeah, I think it's that one.
Okay.
To see that playing. He said yeah. Which I thought that was a PC game. Or I thought
no, that was Dreamcast. It might have been ported to PC.
Yeah.
Way back. Yeah. Anyways, you can press start to bypass that BIOS.
And I do know with the NVIDIA Shield, the Dreamcast is like some work and some don't. It's very hit and miss on what games actually work.
No, these games, they all been tested. They
Yeah.
all work. Anything that doesn't work, I didn't put it on. So this is running Redream. And I could actually, let me see here.
Wheeler.
18-wheeler. Oh, yes, I remember that. I'm going to turn that light off here. There you go.
Oh yeah, look at.
Ooh.
I do remember this.
Yeah,
because you could be a different. Oh, there was like different characters.
Oh, who's this guy? Longhorn. The highway cat.
All right. Grim Reaper asks, does he have an image that's for a 32 gig? I don't remember a 32 gig for you. Do you?
No.
Did you?
I when I first started doing images, I started with the 128 gig, which was the highest at the time.
Yeah. You can get the 128. That 128, you can get that card for probably $20 maybe, if not less.
Yeah, my recommendation right now is 256, 400, 512. Now you can still install this on a hard drive. That's in my release notes. And people actually prove that it works already with my latest image. It will work with the Pi 3 and the Pi 4, it doesn't matter what. You can use an external drive. We have procedures on that to walk you through.
Yep. Yeah. So if you guys have an external hard drive, you can plug it up through a USB and actually boot from that image.
It's a cheap man way.
Damn,
well, I prefer the small footprint. I still recommend a Samsung SD card. Those are the best ones.
Yeah.
Evo Select.
Yeah, the Evo. You can get some of those other cheaper cards, but you'll find that the read and write speed is slower.
Yeah. So as you can see, it runs really good. Now I couldn't actually show the frames per second. There's an option for that, but trust me, I've done this many times on my streams. It's 60 frames per second.
Yeah. When I was watching, it was 5960 the whole time you were playing it.
Pretty much.
Not this particular game, but.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So this is a different emulator. You can't use Start and Select because it's not Libretto based.
Oh.
And this controller. Now this is I have all this in my release notes because I'm very detail oriented, as you all know. There's that little button there. That's this button. There. See, that's how you get to. Now, an Xbox controller, it would be the Xbox button.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll have to figure that out on this cheap controller. What button that would be?
It might be the L3
There's a home.
button.
There's
the
a home
analog.
button.
Who knows?
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So yeah, the Dreamcast, man,
Alright.
is a dream. Like, this is a dream come true for me because I was a big fan and I've tested every game. I've optimized every game for the proper emulator, and it's solid. The Virtual Tennis, one of my favorite games. I just played this to death. So you guys are gonna have a blast. Like I said, it's the Pi 4 is the way to go though. If you want to play Dreamcast, you need to stick with the Pi 4.
Grim Reaper asks, is it better to run an image off of a 1 terabyte drive or a 512 gigabyte SD? I would think SD, because then you're not
faster because it's just so close to the board when you think about it.
Yeah, you're not going through that USB
You're
port.
dealing with USB 3.0, and you have to use an external power. If you just use a USB 3.0, it's going to draw more power. It's going to go more slow. But if you use a USB 3.0 and you have an external power source for your external drive, it's going to be fairly good.
Okay.
All right. Hope that answers that.
Yeah. All right, jump to some other systems since we kind of looked through the.
All right, so that's Dreamcast. So that's a big highlight. The Pi 4, that's a big difference. So these are Japanese NES, Famicom disk system. They have the disk system, which is weird, but yeah, pretty cool though. Super Famicom, which is the Super NES version, Japanese. The Nintendo Game & Watch, very unique. I was kind of blown away when I first saw this. These are the little handheld ones back in the day. I don't know if you guys remember that. Those little tiny little devices. They're very tiny little games, but it's fun. Game Gear. So these are your portable. Sega, I actually had one.
Yep.
And I have really nice bezels for these, which is cool. So let me showcase one of the bezels. So you got Game Boy, right? So that was your black and white kind of, right? Or I'll show you one game. I'm just going to press the X here, which is randomize. Kind of tells you in the bottom of this week. I'm just going to randomize a game here.
Ren and Stimpy, I forgot about that game.
Yeah.
Oh,
a nice little long screen. Like I said, there we go. So there you go. So I got an actual nice little bezel and good real estate. You know, these were designed on a tiny, tiny screen, but it still looks good because I'm using a special, they call shaders. So I'm using a special shader that actually makes that same effect that when you had the handheld, it actually looked like that. So that's basically the settings here. If you press the X and select, that's how you get to your retro arc settings. And then just go to shaders. And I have a special shader applied called GP Palette. You don't have to do this if it's already there. I'm just showing you how it's done. Cool? Pretty neat?
Yep.
All right. Moving on. So Game Boy Advance, same thing. I have a nice bezel for that, but I won't showcase that yet. Sega Genesis, those are Pro. I actually own that one. I love that system.
Yeah.
Good stuff there. Intellivision, Master System, that's the Sega.
Yep.
And SX2. Not too familiar with that, but I think it's more European based. Nintendo 64. Now, Nintendo 64 is always known to not run well. Part 3, I only had a cherry pick, I call it, top 30 games because I've optimized and tweaked them to death to make it run on the Pi 3. So efficiently enough that it's playable. On the Pi 4, I got better luck with it. I'd say 30 to 40% better overall. So that's why I got more games, and I've tested every game, 294, and I've tweaked it to a point where it actually looks pretty good. So it's not perfect, but it's better. Let's just say that.
They're definitely playable.
Japanese new system, really cool.
I've never heard of this one.
Yeah, these were a Japanese stand-up system, but they were cartridge based. They actually changed the cartridge for a different game.
So the arcade or the the place had it, they could change the cartridge inside it to
Yep.
be a different
Yeah,
machine.
Neo Geo did the same thing way back. Yeah. You guys want to see this Dead or Alive? Or?
Yeah, let me see what Dead or Alive you got with it.
Okay.
DOA 2 there. Grim asks, how long does it take? It's usually within. It's usually this with pretty. Usually, I've seen you do it pretty quick. But I mean, if you're in bed, you're not accepting people in.
Oh well, if I'm there right now, I would just accept that. But
yeah,
we only get 2 admins, me and some Retro Junkie. Different time zones. He's 4 hours behind me, so who knows?
Yeah.
But I just have to accept it, and you'll get a quick turnaround. You guys are excited? All pumped to get this?
Yeah. Well, I think Grim is looking. I mean, there's just so many. I mean, there's so many options on this, and like I have the 256, and I have your 128. I think I have your 128. That was my first image.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, and I was just amazed on how many games and how well it played. It's plug and play. I mean, you stick the thing in the machine. Back then, you had to wait for it to expand the memory, I think.
Yeah.
So you had to wait 5 minutes, then reboot the machine, and boom, it was done. You're ready to go. Yeah. Other than setting your controller, like you said, you know, set your A, your up, your down, and it, you know.
Yeah, so there you go. So this is Naomi. This is the arcade version of Dead or Alive 2. It's also on the Dreamcast. They play perfectly well, but this is the quarter-based one. You need quarters. Credit. So I'm pressing select here to put some money. And this is the Dead or Alive 2 Millennium Edition. You guys got a specific character in mind?
I don't think so. I don't think anybody's seen this system. Like I said, I until you talked about it on this image, I had never heard of it.
This guy kicks butt. Oh.
Well, even with the now live streaming, it tends to lag a little bit for our video.
You might be downscaled to 30 FPS. Who knows?
Well, but I'm
60 FPS.
Yeah, but I'm saying that like when we're streaming live, for the viewer that's watching this show, it's always a little bit choppy. Because of YouTube. But for you, when you're watching it live, it doesn't have that lag.
Like I said, I could show the FPS. You guys can really see it's really fluent. Jeez.
This reminds me of Tekken. I'd love to. I played me some Tekken.
Oh, I'm trying to remember my moves here.
Well, you just got to hit all the buttons. That's all.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you don't hit a woman.
Woohoo! There you go. I won. So there you have it. So I could carry on here, but I'll go through the rest of the systems. Nintendo DS, 250. Yeah, you're wondering, DS? Well, yeah, it actually played really well. And because it's emulation, you can actually take advantage of the real estate. So you can have the screen side by side. You can have this screen full screen. And it's actually really awesome. So lots of good titles to be discovered here. Neo Geo.
Oh, that was an expensive machine.
Yeah, and the Neo Geo CD, which I didn't know existed. So this just has the better audio tracks, but it's the same games. Neo Geo Pocket Color. Again, I didn't know they had a handheld.
It's probably just in Japan.
Yeah. And then you get your common NES. That's great. Super Nintendo. Can't beat those. Those are awesome. Super Nintendo CD, which I discovered this as I was going through my bills. Like, what? So Sony apparently made a deal with Nintendo back in the day we want all our Super NES games to have CD quality audio. So Sony owned the rights for CDs at the time. So they made a deal to, have a system, but it never came through. It was only released in Japan, and it ended there. So, but somebody found the source code and able to use it. So you can play these Zelda games with beautiful enhanced CD audio quality. In some case, they actually have videos like this one. This one actually had video, like video motion. So again, you guys will discover this. Open Beats of Rage. This is something that's really unique. It's not built in with RetroPi, unfortunately. You have to port this over yourself from PC, which I did. So it took me a lot of time, but on the Pi 3, I have this. So you guys are wondering, what is Open Beats of Rage? Well, it's an open source beat 'em up engine that was created on the PC, and these are all fan-made games. So people took different games from Street Fighter to Mortal Kombat, and they can mix match them together, as an example, and make a fighting game out of it. So this is what Open Board is, and it's quite creative. A lot of people really did some good work, and all open source stuff. Like Bruce Lee, the game doesn't exist. Somebody just took a character from a 2D sprite and just embedded it and made this game. Really cool. Any questions on?
Now, I've actually played the Mortal Kombat one because it's a side-scrolling, kind of like a Streets of Rage side-scrolling. And you're beating them up as you're walking along, but it is neat that, again, people spent the time to code this and actually create these games and then put them out there for anybody.
Yeah. So Streets of Rage 4, if you want to get started, start with that one. It's really, really good.
I always liked grabbing them like that, grab them and then just give them the knee. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. So there you go. So that's the Open Beats of Rage. And then you get your PSP. So this is a big game changer here as well. On the Pi 3, I had limited. I had like the top 30. But on this build, I basically, because I had more juice, more power, more GPU, I could really take advantage of the system, and the resolutions are amazing. So in some of these cases, the games are running on 2x resolution, and they look phenomenal. It's like playing a PlayStation 3 game at full screen. So if you guys want to see one game, just let me know.
Yeah, load one of those. Well, I know. I tried the God of War on my Shield, which was, I'd say, 80 to 70 to 80% playable. You know what I mean? Because it would get slow when too many things got on the screen.
I didn't miss on that, but I'll show you guys one that, let's see, a racing game like Ridge Racer. Or
Ridge Racer is a good game.
I could do Outrun. There's a pinball game. I know a lot of you guys like pinball. It plays really super well. All the pinball arcade games, they're here. But I'll play Outrun just to demonstrate.
As like I was saying, I know that with a lot of our guys have Androids. If you had a Shield, PSP was at its limit when I was playing on my Shield, and I could only play certain games, and there would be aspects that the game would slow down and get stuttery. But you know, it is what it is on that. So this is where you're able to get the performance off of the Raspberry Pi 4 to play these things. And you've tweaked it to play better too with how you configured it.
So this is running at 2x resolution, and I'll show you where those settings are. I'll show you guys the secret sauce. But as you can see, this is playing.
It's not stuttering. It's not stuttering because usually you would get that where the whole game would kind of slow down when, especially if you got a bunch of cars or something on the screen, it just slow down on you a little bit.
Woo, drift.
Yeah, end up in the water. Stay off that sand.
Oh. Oh, she loves me. That's what counts.
Is that your girlfriend
Yes,
doing that?
my girlfriend in the car.
Oh, if you know, I'm surprised she's not screaming at you for driving like an idiot.
Yeah. So as you can see, so I just pressed my little button here. I'll turn my line back on. But every game has a special game settings. This is why this is where the tweaking comes in. The tender loving tweaking that I spent months and months tweaking every game. So I go game settings. So every game has a game setting file. So this is where I've done all the work for you. You don't have to do nothing. So render resolution is where a lot of the tweaks are. So this is run at 2x. And if you find it stutters, bring it back down to 1x. So on and so on. But it's all done for you. All right. So I think we're almost done here with the just kind of introduction here of the systems. So I'm almost there. PSP Minis are a really good game. Don't be fooled. There's some really good hidden gems in here. PlayStation, I got a whopping 400.
Jesus. You see, there's where you're between this and the PSP is where a lot of that 512 is being used because
yeah. And
I have
these are all compressed in the highest compression. I'm using CHDs. These are the ISO compressed. So almost every CD-based system, I'm using CHDs. So those are the highest compression you can think of. And I had to compress those manually myself. A lot of them.
You had to compress each one of them one by one?
Yeah, took an ISO and just compress it with a tool. So you get that. And then this is probably one of my favorite systems when it comes to click and mouse game, like adventure games. So if you love Sierra games, this is the place to be.
Those old computer games.
Adventure games. They're computer games, exactly.
Yep.
But this was my time in my youth, and I learned English with these games. I had to type in certain games, and I was forced to use a dictionary because every time I type, look at table, I didn't spell it right. It would tell me it was not compute. So yeah, so these is lots of good treasures here for the King Quest series is classic. Leisure Suit Larry, those are your adult-rated games. They never show anything, by the way.
It was adult game for back then, which was
it was adult-rated if you were trying to get laid, but
yeah. But it didn't show nothing.
Yeah, but they never show nudity. Day of the Tentacle, that's a classic. So on here. So I won't spend too much time, but it all works. It's all tweaked for you. The Sierra Space Quest games is probably one of my favorites for Sierras. So, and Genesis 32X, Sega CD Top 100s, again CHD format. Sega 1000, that's the first console for Sega.
Wow.
TurboGrafx 16, really good 16-bit systems. That was ahead of its time at the time. They were better than graphic-wise. They look better.
I had a friend that had a TurboGrafx machine.
Yeah, and this is the TurboGrafx CD, which I really didn't know existed. But they're all CHD format, and they have really nice audio quality. So then you get your TI-99, which is the Texas Instrument. I was exposed to that computer, and I played my first game was called Parsec. It was cartridge-based. That's what it looked like there. But anyhow, that's that. And then you get your Vectrix, which is a very unique system.
I have that. It's a good system.
And you had that?
I have it. I still got it.
Cool. Very rare system.
Yeah, that had its own. It had its own TV screen, and it was
like a little bezel.
Yeah, there was an overlay, which was actually a plastic overlay that went over the screen. I mean, what you see is color. That wasn't there. That was like a plastic overlay. Look, that's what it is. And what I loved about that, it was my main Christmas present. I only got one other thing that year, but I didn't have to. I didn't have to have my parents allow me to use the TV because back then there was one TV in the house. You didn't have, there wasn't a TV in every room. Right. So I could go and take my Vectrix in my room and play it without having to ask, Mom, can I plug it into the TV and play it? And I only knew one other kid my whole life that had one of these devices.
Yeah.
Great device.
Yeah, pretty cool. And then your Virtual Boys, which didn't last long in the market, but pretty cool. You can play it. And the Sharp X68000. So that was equivalent to arcade graphics. That was a Japanese computer system that nobody heard about. It was known as the expensive computer because back in the day that was $3,300 to own. It's too much. And then the Sinclair ZX Spectrum European-based system that people love, UK, they love it. And then you get into collections. This is where you can enable and turn these off, but so it's already done for you. So all these have been added. So across all the systems, you get your beat 'em ups, Castlevania, Double Dragon, The King of Fighters. You love Super Mario? Anything related to Super Mario is all here.
Yeah, and then now for people that have never seen this, on this Super Mario, if you click back into Super Mario, it tells you what system that each of these games are for.
Yeah.
So, like I see the arcade of Super Mario Brothers or Mario Brothers arcade. You have the 2600. So you have the Marios from all the platforms. It tells you what platform it was for.
Yeah, yeah. It's the same data. It's pulling the same metadata, but it actually tells you the system, which is nice.
Yeah.
There you go, Mega Man, Metroid, Mortal Kombat, all there for you. And the Nintendo Classic, if you just want the original Classic, get your 20-some games there. And this is my own unique collection because I'm an old school arcade freak. This is my VirtualMan's arcade. So if I built my own arcade room, these are the arcade games I would want. 450 of them. These are my top.
Only 450 arcade games?
Yeah, I could just live and stay there and bunker. Just, sleep there forever. In my little heaven. Yeah, but this is my top arcade old school collection, and you guys are gonna love. So if you love arcades, this is a good collection. And then I get the racing genre, which is I added. So you get 449 right there across all systems. I just went and I cherry picked all the racing games, basically. They're all there. And the shoot 'em ups and the Super NES Classic, Sonic, Street Fighter, all there for you. If you love Street Fighter, they're all there for you. Don't have to scrounge for it. Zelda games. And then we're back to all games, finally.
Yeah.
All right, so that's in a
12 grand.
I'm going to do just one last thing, and then I'm going to reboot this guy.
Okay.
And you guys are going to see what I'm talking about when you boot this. You get a different intro video, and then you're going to get a different theme. And I just want to showcase that, and then we'll be done.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to have a little sip of beer. Cheers.
Cheers. I'm drinking sweet iced tea.
I'm drinking wine.
Wine. Is a red, white, rosé?
Rosé.
Rosé, there you go.
As long as it ain't red.
Yep, then Todd's in trouble.
So is our audience still awake after all that?
Yeah, they're there. We still got 48 people still in. We had people coming in, go out. We had
Yeah, sorry about that. My TV just kind of crapped out on me. Like I said, this is my lab TV. It fell on the floor a few times. Sorry about that.
All right, so I'm going to ask a question. Well, hold on. Let this boot. Let it give you your intro, then I'll ask.
So this is my kind of sci-fi, kind of retro sci-fi inspired intro. There you go.
That was short because some of them are a little bit longer.
No, it's just my TV crapped out there. It's just
okay. So we missed part of it. Yeah. It does random, and you'll have
40 to 45 seconds top.
Okay.
There you go.
So question. So how long did it take you to compile this image, this 512, because you said you had to test the games, your bezel projects, all that stuff. How long are we talking?
Well, I've evolved from the Pi 3, right? So whatever I've done on the Pi 3, it carried over with the Pi 4, right? All my mistakes, all my fixes, all that jazz, I carried it over. And the Pi 4 alone, just when I poured in all my content, and then I started from clean slate, a clean OS, clean base to play, and the Playbox base. And then At that point, it was 3 months, solid. And this is like late nights, man. Like,
Yeah.
say 5 hours a night after work, at least. 3 months solid. 3 months solid. And this is just testing, tweaking, getting the bezel project correct, aligned with the emulator to just testing every game. Like I had the time because I was unemployed. So, so.
Well, hey, we appreciate your work on that. I mean, you're unemployed, which isn't good, but it, you know,
No, but
you
I
definitely made the best of it.
That people, kept begging for. Like, you get a donation, and I don't ask for money for these, but people like donating, so they donate. That's their choice. They don't have to, but I do have that option for people that appreciate the work.
Yeah, well, you can see now I have, this is off of my 256 image. You can see this is a different intro, which I like this one. I've seen this one. I kind of like it because I like these guys, the men in black, coming to play at the arcade. I thought it was a neat thing.
Yeah, just kind of collaging different videos from the internet, just put it all together, put my own music to it, do my own editing. That's basically all it is. But it's still fun to do, right? I have 16 of them now. So if you wanted all of them, I might offer them on my my Tapatalk as a bundle. You could just simply copy and paste them in your splash screens folder. So I think with the image that you have, I think you're missing like 6 of them.
Okay, well, it's still plenty. One of the things you talked about now, you turn on the randomizer. For me, for my taste, I turn off the randomizer because I want a certain skin. I want it to look a certain way because some of the skins for me, I feel like that's crowded the screen. I feel like it's a little bit crowded.
Yeah.
So for me, I'll go through it now. We said earlier, there is, I want to say through the ES screen, excuse me, the ES themes, I want to say it was 140 that you can offer, but they won't support all of some of these consoles or something. It may not support them because they don't have it, whereas those Hersey ones did. So yeah, you can make it look completely different, and that gives you a different feel, and it's a really cool thing. One of the cool things, and we talked about this, you and I did, some of the benefits of using RetroArch, that it has a few little Easter eggs that people don't know about, and like the achievements. So explain the RetroArch's achievements.
Yeah, so the achievements, they all started from the console, the new modern console, right? I first experienced PlayStation 3 achievements, and then, oh wow, that was addictive. So not only you could play the game, but the time that you put in the game, you had an objective. You could actually, I'm going to kill all the bosses. It's going to give me an achievement. So every boss you kill, you get an achievement, right? Same thing applies here with retroachievements.org. That's the website. You can register free. This is an open source project. And what the guy has done, the community has done, is basically take any random, like Nintendo games to Genesis to Super NES, whatever, and they've made achievements based on the gameplay that you're playing. So finishing the first level, things like that. So all you have to do is you go to retroachievements.org. And I have all this in my release notes, by the way, and how to actually enable it in my build. Very simple. So you just make sure you get an account, a good standing account, and then you can set it up and integrate it into your RetroPi. Very simple. RetroArch basically built in with your emulators, and that's it. That's all it takes. And then as long as you have internet from your Pi, it's going to pull the achievements icons. And so every time you achieve an achievement, it pops up just like a PlayStation or Xbox.
Yeah, it gives you like you give like little trophies, and it has, and actually, doesn't it have like high scores and stuff?
Yeah,
on their website.
On their back end, they have like a ladder system, I guess you can call it. So you can be like the most trophies, whatever. So, and they do this on a per game, per system, whatever. Pretty cool stuff.
All right, and then the other cool thing that's very unique to this was it peer to play or peer
Yeah,
playing?
retro play, or retro play or retro net play. That's
Yep,
it. Retro
yeah,
net play.
net play.
Yeah, I can show you guys that. I don't know if you guys can still my screen. If you want to go to my screen.
Yep. I'll go.
There we go. I got a new random theme. Beautiful. So I'm going to go to options, and like you can go like built in every core system that you go into, you can enable it there, but you can actually do this globally. So every time you go into a system and it's a RetroArch LR Liberator based emulator, it will actually use it. So you have under systems tools, I always get lost. I don't remember where exactly it is, but give me a second. I think it's under emulation tools. There it is. So under emulation tools, under options, emulation tools, you're going to see it right here, RetroArch NetPlay. So you simply go in there. I'm not going to go in there because it's going to display my IP.
Yep.
You just go in there, you set up your NetPlay. So one needs to host and the other one needs to be a client, like to connect to. And you might have to tweak your firewall. If you have a firewall, you'll have to enable the port to forward it. But it's simple, and then once you do that, it's done. And then based on the game that you're playing, most of the emulators will support it. Arcade, NES, Super NES will support NetPlay, and it's pretty fun. I've actually tested it with a friend, and it works.
So you're able to play one of these games.
First player, second player.
Yeah, so, you're able to play with them, and they can be somewhere else. So yeah.
So try to stick to Ethernet if you're going to do that. Wi-Fi, there's latency because the Wi-Fi goes up and down, right, like a yo-yo. If you can plug to the Ethernet, you're going to have a more stable connection.
Yep.
But playing 1942 is an example, a good two-player game. That when the other player comes in, when they connect, they would basically be the second player playing next to you.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a thing that I'd never heard about until.
Yeah, it's been around for a while, but not a lot of people use it because it's not pushed as out of the box enable. So I know Recalbox, it's built into the interface. That's a little different. But RetroPi, they've made it more like it's there, it's at your discretion.
Okay, I'm gonna look through some of these comments. So Wiser Boy said Floyd and Floyd Room is awesome, and I think I'm using on mine. I think was Floyd. I think that was the Floyd.
Beautiful themes.
Yeah. Let's
see.
Go
to Hershey for that.
One of the things that I will say is that your Tapatalk room has a lot of information. It's a forums, and I'll go ahead and share my screen so I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll show it here. It has a lot of information, guys. So
because I'm very detail oriented. Nothing wrong with that.
No. All right. So it's on my screen here. Over here. So this is the Tapatalk, your room or your forums, and it has all the different stuff, and it has categories. So if you're looking for images, this would be where I would go. You have some images. It has rules. You have general discussion.
Start with the welcome rules. That's your first place to go.
Okay. So welcome rules. But when you talk about your given information, when you go in through this, here's the 256 image here that talks about when it was released, and here's your notes.
Yeah.
And I mean, you give shout outs, which is awesome. I mean, you don't take the credit for all of the stuff you do. I mean, look at your amount of shout outs that the people that did the work to help you get where you are, or helped you along, or laid the groundwork.
A lot of them were influences, and I just, borrowed their work, and then I kind of evolved with it.
And you write in there all of the things that you changed. Look at you talk about what you did, and you're using Playbox. Now, Playbox is somewhat new as
Yeah.
isn't that kind of like the lays on top of the operating system, or is it the operating system?
It's the foundation. It's the
Okay.
base image. So anybody can start with the PlayBox base image that has nothing in it except the Raspbian OS and RetroPi. That's it. So that's about 16 gig roughly. And you can start from there and start building, making everything your own. That's basically what I did. I work with 2Play. He's the guy behind PlayBox. You want to hit his YouTube. He does have a Discord as well. So 2Play is 2PLAY exclamation point. So check him out on YouTube. And the foundation is that I start with the base image. It's got nothing. It's bare bones, right? And then I kind of put all the emulators, install all my content, the artwork. It takes a long time, but that's how it starts. That's a painting cartoon. That's my wall of Nintendo and my Power Glove.
All right. I was looking through that, and you look at some of the features and the fixes. I mean, here's your release, some of the release notes and the extra fixes. I mean, all of that was just for the 256 image.
Yeah. Then you get into the other.
Here's the 400 image.
Yeah.
And goes through.
The 400 image, you should mention Drew Talk.
Yep.
You guys know Drew Talks. He's well known to do reviews. So he just reviewed my 400 gig RETRO-BLISS Tweak edition, which was it's been out for over 6 months, but he's back in play. But he just reviewed it and he loved it. He gave it an A+.
Yeah.
And he's going to be reviewing my Pi4 as well eventually.
Yeah, he does a lot of. He's a tuber, and he just does. It seems like he focuses on it's all Raspberry Pi images, gaming,
pretty much anything
retro
simulation, but he does other little things, little different things. He's different in a good way.
Yeah, I follow him. He's one of the guys that actually I found out about you watching some of his. I think on his video for your 128. That was how I found the build, and with that. So he just did that. So he's got a video on that. So
he definitely helped me get known. Let's say that.
And you do have a chat room, which is on the side. I think you have to open it.
If you're on a desktop, you're definitely going to see it on the bottom right.
Yep.
But if you have, there is an app for it on the phone, but I really don't recommend using the app because they don't have chat. For some reason, they've disabled it. So use the same link that's but use your native browser that's in your tablet or your mobile device instead.
Yeah, because I had Tapatalk on my phone. It was an app, and you're right. It didn't work very well. So I went to my PC. I'm like, this is a little bit easier to move around. So lots of information here. Lots of information. And you do this completely for free. You do have a tip jar. You said that, hey, because lots of people had hit you up and said, hey, for your countless hours of doing this, I'm willing to kick you some bucks. So you do have a tip jar where people are free to give if they want.
Yeah, completely optional.
Because as we said, I just, it blows my mind how much time you spent to put this together. I mean,
it's 2 years of work altogether. Because I started, it was rough. It wasn't the best, and I was rushing things initially at first, but now I've kind of learned my lesson that I need to slow down and just do it right. Yep. And then I used the community that Retro Junkie helped me put together to give me feedback, right? And my Retro Patriots just really helped build this and make it better and better and better and better. We all share information and we make things better, and here we are.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could find I had added the your stuff to my list on because mine was US and yours was CA. But I put the link in there and it's in the show notes. I will update it so that you have the correct one. So that you're able to do it.
But you'll be able to find the same information in Tapatalk as well.
Let me turn that off. But yeah, we got lots of. Is anybody got any other questions? I know this is a little bit for people to take in. If you're somebody that wants to try this, if you want to go with what's the latest, would be the 4. If you're wanting to pull back a little bit and maybe not spend as much, you want to try it out. The 3B Plus, I think you can get the whole setup for $60. I think you'll get a kit. You can get the kit without the card. The card, they'll sometimes give you a 32 gig card. The 32 gig card, there are some builds out there that other, there's images that other people put out. But 32 gigs, I'm just thinking, why are you going to waste your time? I mean, if you're going to do it, go 128, 256. And that's where I would probably be 256 more than 128, but 128 cards are dirt cheap.
Yeah, you might as well go up to 256 for $10 more.
Yeah. So yeah, you can play that, and then you're playing these games. Then you can get yourself a fancy box, whatever kind of. They have so many cases, so all in what you're wanting to get and what you're wanting to use.
Let's take on some questions. Is there any questions?
Yeah, I was looking to see if there was many questions.
Yeah.
So we got some people. We got some people that went to your Tapatalk waiting on approvals, and I think Retro Junkie's on it. Let's see. Wiser Boy says, I find using the 8-bit Duke controller is better, but it's cool to have buttons and joysticks. Again, I use this thing here. Yep. Again, I think it was $15.
Yep.
Like I said, it's a cord that goes from here, and I can put my Raspberry Pi over there, and I can play it. It works flawless. The only issue I had back was with Daphne, and that was because something wasn't right with the configuration and how I was adding coins.
Yeah.
And that once I got that sorted out, it was good to go. I mean, it was pretty simple. And these can be put. What if you're talking about wanting to build a cabinet, an arcade system, arcade cabinet? You can take a Raspberry Pi 3 or 4 and put that into a full-size cabinet. It will run, and you can put a monitor on it. I've seen videos where people have taken the 1-up machines and put a Raspberry Pi in it and made it their arcade machine. Now, I will say this, from what I have read, keep in mind that the joysticks and buttons that 1-up uses are very cheaply made.
Yeah.
So most of the time, if you're going to buy a 1-up arcade machine and you say, I'm going to gut it, I'm going to pull the guts out of it, and I'm going to make it a retro machine, which is very possible. There's lots of videos on it. The problem you're going to do, you're going to want to upgrade those buttons and controllers, because that joysticks and buttons are not top quality. You're going to want to swap that out. And that's going to run you $50-$60 for some of the nicer ones that you want to get. So you can take a 1-up machine, stick a Raspberry Pi in it, buy some new joysticks, and you'll have a fully functioning retro cabinet that's going to be able to play everything you see here, or depending on your image, you're able to play it. So it's a great option. Also, Arcade Solutions has a thing that I almost bought it, which was a arcade board, which was a joystick board that was about yay big, and it had 2 players where it had 8 buttons and then a joystick, and 8 buttons and a joystick, and you could play, and you would have your Raspberry Pi sat inside the box. So the lid would shut, your Raspberry Pi's in there, HDMI cable went out to the TV, and you were playing with like joysticks, and it was I want to say $200 if you got the top end of everything. And I was close to getting it. Blue actually was talking to me saying, you should get it. And I was like, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait till I get a game room.
Yep.
Yeah, people read the forums. And I see where we had some people that had some. Read the forums, read questions, and I've said that in things that when I've taught people, most of the time, if you do a little reading, you'll actually fix it. I screwed up today and screwed up my image by not reading. But if you read a little bit, you'll keep from making mistakes. And then when you have to ask a question, you'll already have a base knowledge of what they're talking about. So if someone's helping you and they say, well, have you looked at this and this? You're not saying, I don't know what you're talking about. Where do I go for that? And that kind of tells the person that's trying to help you that you have no idea and you just want to be told what to do or from step to step to step. So just do a little research, do a little reading, and you may find that you may need help, but not as much help. And you actually feel better because you learned.
Yeah, we tend to hold hands at times. For people, we spoon feed them the intel, and that's okay. Once in a while, it becomes like a broken record at times. But that's why we create the forums, right? It's repetitive information that we can just, here you go, read this. It's all there for you. Just take your time, And we won't bash you for it, but it's the people that come back and they don't even read, and we told them to read. But then we find out that they can't read. They actually can't read. So that's where I do like a little remote session with them and help them out, which is okay.
It's one of the things I miss about NAN is the forums.
Yeah, they had very good forums, and ARB was always great at answering questions. Dab wasn't very good at answering questions.
Yeah, I find chats are good for one-off ad hoc question, and then from there I guide people. Here you go, follow this link. You're good to go.
Yeah. 9 times out of 10, I would just make a video myself and then just say, "Here, this is what you do."
Yeah.
Oh, look at
another thing that because I like to make my images sustainable, meaning you can update them, right? The RetroPi, my post fix. So RetroPi is a common one that people want to keep up to date with. So I actually made a video on how to do that, and the steps that you kind of missed there today.
Yeah, I did. I missed some steps, and once I screwed it up and then rebooted, then it seemed like then it was downhill from there. I couldn't get into the parts where your instructions said, "Hey, go here." But I had messed up something and I couldn't even get into that file. Look at Mr. Forrest Card says he loves my headphones. Forrest is the guy that works with me. Glad that he's able to watch. He's big into him, and I have been at the arcades. Actually, there's a barcade that him and I have been there in town. Him and I went to it, had some beers and played some games and enjoyed ourselves.
Cool.
So let's see. Juggernaut says, I've seen a few different resources for doing this, and I have to say the Tapatalk forum and this show kicks ass. Thanks, Jug. Joined in all over the forum already. Okay, great. Thanks for joining, Juggernaut. Thanks for watching. Soaking up some knowledge. So definitely plenty of information there. You don't have to go with a 512. I ordered because of VMan. It's his fault that I ordered a 512 card to come in.
Oh yeah, what do you mean? I twisted your arm.
Yeah, it was because the more he talked about it and kept talking about the image for the 512, I couldn't help it. I was like, ugh. And I found an open package, saved me $10. And Blue, you know how I am about saving some money.
Oh God, yeah. It was
once I saw that I was saving $10, like, man, it's $10 I'm saving. I'll go ahead and order it. But after watching a video by 2Play, I don't think I'm going to put the 512 image and put it on my Raspberry Pi 3. I think I'll probably download the 400 gig image because that was designed for the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus.
Yeah.
If you're going to get a Raspberry Pi 3, folks, the 3B Plus, look for the 3B Plus. Don't get the other versions because most of the images that are created for retro gaming, they're going to be created to optimize that B Plus.
And if they want the 4, there's 3 models for that. The Pi 4 has the 1 gig model, 2 gig model, and 4 gig model. And that's just the size of RAM. Mm-hmm. But I'm using the 4 gig. If you can get the 4 gig, great. But Yeah, I think they're sold out at this point because of me.
Yeah. All right. Juggernaut.
We'll go with the 2 gig, no problem.
Jug asked me if I got the Samsung. I think it's the Class 10 because it was the Evo. It's the green one.
Yeah, Evo Select, and they also have a red one. But I'm using the Evo Select Green, and that link is in I think in your description there.
Yep.
But,
and again, the better cards you get, what that's going to benefit is the read and write speed.
Speed, yeah.
So again, I said that earlier in the show that Raspberry Pi has no hard drive. There's no hard drive on this device. It reads the SD card is the OS, the hard drive. That's where it's at. So it's reading and writing to that. So if you get a crappy cheap card, that means it's slower to read and write, which slows your whole device down. So if you get a better card, you will find it runs better. Also, it's quicker when I'm in my PC to write to the image, because I put this in my computer, burn or copy the image onto this. You'll find that a better card does it quicker. And I have, what was that other card? It wasn't the Samsung. What was the other one you mentioned? Because SanDisk.
Yeah.
I have a SanDisk 200. So I have a 256 and a 200. That 200, which is a SanDisk, takes not quite twice as long, but it takes quite a bit longer than my 256 Samsung Evo that I have.
Yeah,
you can just tell that speed.
Yeah, the speeds are based. The logo you want to look for, it's the U1, U3. U3 is actually faster. So, and that's where the speed varies between 50 to 80 megabytes per second, depending. Yeah.
So yeah, Retro Junkie posted in there about that the Evo U3. I see ARB jumped in the chat. Thanks for joining us, bud. I see he's jumped in there.
So as you can see, I'm just playing that PlayStation Portable Mega Man Maverick. Looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's not stuttering at all. And that animation on it. All right, so in Jug, he's in Canada, so he's ordering that. Let me see something. I want to say, let me take a look at my wish. Was it my wish list? I thought it was my ideas for gifts. I was gonna say,
in Canada, it's saying $50 for the 1 and the 2 gigs RAM there.
Oh yeah.
75 for the 4.
Yeah, that's time. Yeah.
I would definitely go with the 75. I'd go with the 4 if I was going to get.
If you can get the 4, it's worth it. But like, I think applications that will actually use the extra RAM will come down the pipe. It's not fully utilizing it, but eventually it will. So you might as well get the 4 gig if you can. But the 2 gig will suffice. Like it will run as the equivalent.
See, I love that it's a mini computer. Like, I mean, I've used it in the past as a Plex server, where you can plug your external hard drives to it and run Plex off it. And I've used it as just, like a computer. Very cool.
It's a great little computer desktop.
It is.
4 gigs of RAM. If you're going to use this computer, it's definitely better with more RAM.
And it's just freaky at how small it is. Like when you get it, it's like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at, here's one of the, this is that Raspberry Pi 4 kit. It's Raspberry Pi 4 basic starter kit with a fan cooled, comes with an aluminum case. Here on Amazon, it's showing $85. And it's giving you, it looks like the power supply, which has the button. The old ones, I remember the first Raspberry Pi I had did not have it didn't have the button. I really liked when they came out with my second one, had the button where I could push it and turn it off. And there's scripts that you can put on it. There is a script. Now I showed my my case, which looked like the Sega Genesis. My Sega Genesis has an on-off button and it has a reset button like the Sega Genesis. I can download and put a script on my Raspberry Pi to actually utilize those buttons. So like when I hit the off, when I flip the switch to off, it will run a script to shut down.
Yeah.
If I push the reset button, it runs a script to restart the device instead of you having to go through the menu. But the only downside is I did that on one of my images and then I rewrote the image. So that was gone and I just didn't go back. And
But DaButcher, just so you know, that's already pre-installed for you, my images.
Really?
Yep.
Is it on your 256?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I think it is.
I'll have to look for that.
Show you, and it will tell you.
I'll have to look for that because I had to. I want to say on my 128, I had to look it up online to what script I had to download it.
56 and up, I did enable that by default. It's our pre-install.
Huh.
Yep.
Well. I've never even tried it. Because I was like, oh, I have to put it in myself.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So cases you should mention for the Pi 3 cases with the company, RetroFlag.
Yeah, RetroFlag was for that case. And now they have a Super Nintendo one. I've seen an NES one. Maybe some other. They had let me look. What was that?
NES Pi, I think they call it Super NES Pi, and Mega Pi, which is the Genesis. Yeah. But I wish they made it for the Pi 4, but they haven't yet.
Well, yeah, but the Pi 4 is still on the front end of this.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a little time to, just like you said, you didn't race out to create an image for this because it wasn't ready.
No, I was a late adopter. I wanted to be purposeful because I wanted the dev to soak it in.
So I'm looking at RetroFlag is the name of this website where I've got the maker of this case. They have a Game Boy one, so it'll look like a Game Boy, case. They have a GPI case, which GPI.
I think it's the handheld.
This looks like maybe a Super Nintendo cartridge. Then they have the Mega Pi, which is this. Super Pi, which is the Super Nintendo. They have the Super Pi case, which looks like the Famicom, the NES Famicom. And then, of course, they sell the controllers, the NES case, so it'll look like a Nintendo. So it looks like a little Nintendo, but they're only this big. So I like it. Just people see it and they'll like, wow, what's that? So it's a little neat thing. Hey there, Ian. All right, so I'm looking through there. I don't really have any questions. Let's see. Retro Junkie says Micro Center usually has Pi 4 gigs in stock. But there's no Micro Centers in my state. I know that they're really they're a lot out west, but I don't have any in my state. But for me, I'll just order it from Amazon. And if I want it, but I'm holding off. I'm gonna not.
So just be aware for people who buy SD cards, there are fake ones out there. So just be careful and definitely get it from a trusted source. And I was actually a victim of that when I first started. I got hit with that, so I had a fake card.
Yeah. Well, that was that ran real rampant there for a while, and damn if that doesn't work, that damn reset button works. I never knew it was there. I didn't know that your script was on there.
Yeah.
Because I hit the little blue reset
button. The community spoke, and I've done it.
Already done it. Yeah. Hey, Ian, I see that Ian's jumped in the chat. So we'll go ahead and wrap this up. I don't see any questions. Miss Blue, do you have any questions or things that you would think of?
No, I don't think so. You guys covered everything. It was awesome.
Just looking through my notes here. Big plus on the 512. If you have the Raspberry Pi 4 and the 512, look at his updates. He showed it on the video. go and look at the update. There's an update button in the options, and click to download those updates. And a lot of those are little script changes that will fix them. Because one of the things that when him and I were poking around looking the other day, we were talking. We saw Quake wasn't there. Well, there was one Quake. And I'm like, oh, you just have one Quake game. You're like, no, I got more than that. I'm like, well, we're looking. I was like, I don't see it. And it was just a small text error. You know, it was a small error, and you fixed it. And you're like, well, I've pushed an update for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So everything is GitHub now. Everything that is used for common small little configuration management changes. It utilizes GitHub behind the scenes.
But that is not going to download ROMs for you. No, it's not going to do that stuff. GitHub, it's tweaks. It's configuration tweaks. That's right. Hopefully that makes sense to you. That's what that's for. Let's see. Okay, so nothing else on there. I'd like to again thank you for coming on here. We'll close up. Blue, do you have anything that you'd like to finish up the show with?
You just asked me that, and no, I'm good.
All right, I was making sure. I wanted to make sure before I. Virtual Man, anything that we're gonna close up show? Anything that off the top of your head, if there's something you want to mention before we roll out?
I know with everything that's going on, everybody's forced to be home and stuff. This is a good time to actually relax. Keep calm, play retro games. That's all.
Retro games, I like that.
So I got an image there. If you get a Raspberry Pi, it's a smaller investment, but it's fun. Play with friends and family. It's really nostalgia. Brings it good memories for everybody. And again, it's a community-driven thing. And I want to thank everybody in my community that's been with me, tolerated me for the last 3 years. And it's been great since then. And I want to thank you for hosting this show.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for putting up with me and answering my questions and being willing to come on the show and talk about this stuff, because I'm starstruck with the work that went into this type of project. We're not talking about something that you threw together in a couple hours. This is, like he said, months of work to compile this. And until you get one of these images, folks, and start playing it, and you see how everything works, and it's game after game after game, and it didn't just happen by just throwing it all together. It happened by the stuff he created and put together, and that is what's so amazing. Like the community feel, the community sentiment that you have. You're not all about, hey, I did a great job, I did this. Your special thanks shows that you don't take all the credit for this. You're like, hey, I'm just one guy doing one part. Look at all this that these other people did to make this happen. And I really respect that. And that goes with a lot of people with Kodi or open source. It's not about one person. It's about one person doing what they can to help somebody else. And then that person doing something to help somebody else. And down the line, that's what this is all about. And I think that that's a good thing to think about right now when we're going through all this shit in the world. This is not country driven. This isn't just about the US. It's not about Canada. It's not about China or the UK. We're talking about a world problem right now. It will get better. We'll get past this, and we'll look back at 2020, and that will be the subject matter. That will be the headline. But be kind to people. Be nice to people. Take a breath. When you go to the grocery store and you're struggling to find that they're out of a certain product that you normally buy and the shelves are empty, don't think you got to hoard up everything else because that's what's there and I want to get mine.
And also, don't be rude to the people working in the grocery store because they've got no control over that.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, babe. Yes, you need to be kind to the people that are there. The truck drivers that are getting this stuff to you are trying to. The warehouse workers that are working overtime. and this is on our company, our warehouse workers and our truck drivers are being pushed to the limit to get that stuff out. And they're doing everything they can do. And I mean, you got to the point where some people, you get to a point, you're just like ready to quit. So do what you can. Be kind to others. Help each other in this time of people struggling. If you see someone struggling, give them a damn hand. If you've got extra of something and they need it, give it to them. Help them out, because you don't know when you might need that help.
If you have a neighbor that can't go out, grab stuff for them. Ask them if they need anything.
Exactly. And that's is where we're going to show our humanity at this, at these type of moments. Are you humane, and how is humanity doing? We are so much of a society about me. Let's not be about me. Let's take care of us, but let's also take care of the people around us. And if everybody does a little bit to take care of people around you, this will go well. I will say thank you. I'll say thank you to a guy. I had a customer, and I've talked to you, Blue, about customers that's gotten on my nerves. I wanted to throat punch some people.
Yeah.
But I've also had a guy that went and I helped him, did everything I could do to help him got him a few products that we had, and he just put money on the counter and he says, "There you go." And I said, I don't, we don't take tips. You can keep it. And he says, "That's for you and the guys that are working back there right now." He says, "I appreciate you guys being here, being willing to come into work and to get stuff out here for us to have something." He goes, "Thank you," and walked off. So I couldn't really chase him down and stick it back in his pocket. And I gave some to the guys that are working right there, because it's just an act of kindness. So let's try to show those kind of things. You don't always have to give people money. Be kind.
Just say thank you.
Yeah. And support the restaurants that are closing, that are only doing takeout. There's a lot of small businesses. Most restaurants are small businesses. Do takeout. Help them out so that at least the money's coming in, because they're losing the money for the customers that can't sit down in the restaurant, but they're willing to do takeout or delivery. Support that.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going to see us all come together in these kind of times.
All the healthcare workers that are sleeping on floors and in back rooms because they're doing 72-hour shifts.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Yes, healthcare workers that are doing this, that are putting themselves on the front line, and there are a lot of people, the people that keep your electricity and your damn internet going.
Yeah,
I mean, those are the gas station workers. There's people that when the department stores close, there's certain businesses that are going to stay open, and those people continue to go to work so that you can be at home. So be kind. We'll get through this time.
Yeah.
Don't just be nice. So thanks again for everybody watching. Hey, another 2-hour show, but what's new with Dabs? That's how I roll. Hey, thanks again, Virtual Man, for being on. And as always, streaming matters to us because streaming matters to you, and gaming matters to us because gaming matters to you.